As we're faced with the aftermath of and our future with wildfires here in LA, it seems particularly pressing to listen to the caregivers of lands across the world who have been doing so for thousands of years, for centuries, for decades, and on a daily basis. So during the time that we have been working on this exhibition, its relevance was brought into full force. And I hope that in many ways, it could also offer us potential views for the future. So with that, here's what we're going to do next. We are going to be looking at a slideshow with all the projects that are participating in the exhibition. And then we're going to hear from the people behind it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, who will share with us the incredible works of all the participating artists. wonderful to see all these projects together. And if you want to spend more time with these projects and kind of take a look at all of the images included in the exhibition, you can log on to our website and take a look at all of the projects and read more about the exhibiting artists as well. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to invite our presenters to share their work and talk a little bit about the project. And we will then all come together for a Q&A. So as Janice mentioned before we got started, if you have any questions for the speakers, please feel free to share them in the Q&A throughout the presentations, and then we will address them at the end. So with that, I would like to invite our first presenter for this evening, my collaborator for this exhibition, without whom this exhibition would not have happened. Joining us from Canada, Danielle de Silva, who is a South Asian Portuguese conservation biologist and an award-winning documentary photographer and filmmaker who specializes in rematriation and re-indigenized conservation storytelling. She also brought with her that amazing path to her work as the founder and executive director of Photographers Without Borders. Danielle, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me and for having Natasha and Tatiana share more about their stories. They have much more to say than me, but yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Danielle de Silva. I'm going to share my screen, just walk you through, again, just some of the beautiful artists that are going to be sharing their work in this exhibition. But a little bit about us. We're Photographers Without Borders. I'm the founder and executive director, as Rotem mentioned. We're a global community of storytellers who really care about collective liberation and envisioning that and protecting Mother Earth through revolutionary ethical storytelling. We have many different programs. We currently have a grant that's going on, and we are accepting applications until March 5th. And this is the grant that Natasha, Tatiana, and many others have now received to further their projects. And we also have educational programs. We have a podcast. We have all kinds of stuff going on, and it's free to become a member. There's also professional levels of membership too that we have to support folks further on their journey. And so, yeah, what does it mean to be a revolutionary storyteller? And by the way, all of these photographs that you're seeing in this presentation come from our revolutionary storyteller grantees. But we really invite photographic and mixed media stories that range from everything from land and water protection to indigenous science and wisdom, climate change, regeneration, and everything intersecting in between, indigenous sovereignty, land back, all of these types of things, and more for folks who want to apply for this grant. We're really trying to empower storytellers who really who value the stories and who really understand and share a collective vision of collective liberation for all, which means not just for humans, but also for the water, the land, all of the things that sustain us and that we're in relationship with, all of the non-human beings that walk this world with us as well, and who are considered teachers and guides to many communities. And by showcasing these storytellers, we really hope to inspire worlds of innovation and possibility. We simply cannot reach futures that we aren't actively envisioning. And so that's really what the goal of this grant is. And so I do encourage anybody who's watching, who's a photographer, who feels like they're sharing and creating some revolutionary stories, to apply for this grant by March 5th. And I just wanted to, again, take everyone through some of the work that's being seen. So Fatma Fahmy, she's a Saudi Arabian photojournalist living in Egypt, who's worked to document the story of Lake Quran and the fishing community that not only relies on the lake for sustenance, but who are truly the natural guardians of this water source. And unfortunately, just through many activities and climate change, the lake has become polluted, salinified, salinated, and it's become a really difficult issue for the fishermen. And then she also created a beautiful film that's actually won several awards as well, by the same name, by the Lost Lake, named The Lost Lake. And this project has been selected for a Magnum Foundation grant and has also won a Sony World Photo Award, among many other things. Was a runner-up for an Alexia grant, I think she also won a World Press Photo Grant. And so we also have Ayse Gürsöz. Ayse Gürsöz is a dear friend of mine. She's a Turkish-American photographer who worked on this project in collaboration with the Native Conservancy, which is an indigenous conservation organization in the Eyak community in Alaska. They struggled and suffered from a massive oil spill that they've been cleaning up for many years, and now are really trying to run a local kelp industry that will not only provide nourishment to the community, but a way to sustain their traditional way of life and protect the land and the water. Angela Ponce, I just had the privilege of meeting her in person at the National Geographic Storyteller Summit, where I also had a chance to meet many of our other photographers. She's a Peruvian documentary photographer and photojournalist, and her project, The Guardians of the Glacier, documents inhabitants of the Quechua community who live on the slopes and close to the glacier, who are being affected directly by the retreating ice, and have dedicated their lives to making the population aware of the problem of melting ice as an effect of climate change. They seek to protect their snow-capped mountains through ancestral knowledge and rituals of the Indian worldview, which over time are also disappearing. This story has also appeared in The Guardian, has won a Sony World Photo Latin America Award, and has recently won a National Geographic grant. Very proud. We also have Alex Moana King, who's a Maori woman from the tiny island state of Rarotonga in the so-called Cook Islands. And she documented the story of master carver and author Papa Mike Tavioni and his partner Mama Awitia Tavioni, and their efforts to preserve their culture and to share these skills and teachings to younger generations, and to just as many people as possible. Their goal is to support the community in rejuvenating sustainable practices to not only address the impacts of climate change, but also to now support coral restoration as well. Alex also had the chance to go to the tiny island of Puka Puka, where they've maintained their traditions, their language, their stories through colonization. And they have a really beautiful way of life that's sustainable and regenerative. We also have Celine Murillo, who is a photographer, filmmaker, and environmentalist who creates content showcasing the rich biodiversity of the Philippines. She's not just a photographer or a filmmaker, she's also like an on-camera person and like does a lot of educating. She's really inspired to get her audience to care about Mother Earth and to generate general desire to protect the planet. This project is in collaboration with a youth collective that is regenerating the forests, and it's indigenous, run by the Manobo community in the Philippines. And she did a community project where she gave all kinds of community members cameras and had them document their own stories, which is really beautiful. And then the two presenters that are going to be sharing alongside me are, one of them is Natasha Johnson, another dear friend of mine. She's a photojournalist, a filmmaker, a portrait photographer, social entrepreneur. She runs a nonprofit called the SMART program, which she SMART project, which she founded, which helps and supports young people, and so beautiful. And she's so multi-talented. She's also a graphic designer. She's from Dallas, Texas, and seeks to highlight environmental racism in communities of color affected by pollution from neighboring factories, other things like redlining, gentrification, etc., and the community's resilience, moreover, with her groundbreaking project. The Faces That Face has won a Pulitzer Center grant and has been featured in various spaces in Dallas, and very, very proud of Natasha. And finally, Tatiana Lopez. So Tatiana, another dear friend, is an Ecuadorian visual anthropologist whose current work centers the Sapara women of the Ecuadorian Amazon in their fight to protect the forest that they call home. The goal of this project is really to support the Sapara women in not only their legal battles, but also to expand their women's medicine houses and to generally have spaces to share and pass on their teachings. And this story has also been featured in The Guardian and many other publications. And she also did a really beautiful collaboration. And I'll let both of them share more about their projects. And that's all for me. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. It's so wonderful to hear you talk about all this work. And I already have so many questions to ask. We'll come back to that later on. So let's begin by, or switch gears by inviting the last artist that Danielle was mentioning, Tatiana Lopez, who is a documentary photographer, visual anthropologist, and artist from Ecuador, whose work focuses on themes of identity and belonging, the body as a medium of expression, and the interconnectedness between humans and nature. And we'll hear all about that in the project that she will present tonight. Her first ethnographic film essay, Naku Ikinyu, received the Audience Award from Man 7th edition in 2021, and it was selected as one of 2 winners of the 2021 Graduate Student Award for Outstanding Work offered by the Society of Visual Anthropology. She received her master's in visual anthropology from the Free University Berlin in Germany. Tatiana, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your work.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be sharing with everyone tonight. Like my name is Tatiana, like Rotem say, my name is Tatiana Lopez. I am an Ecuadorian photographer and visual anthropologist. And a lot of my work has been centered around indigenous Sapara women here in the Ecuadorian Amazon. Part of this project that I'm going to be presented today is it's like a second chapter to a long-term project that I've been working since 2020. And it's called Rooted. Sapara women reweave their ancestral knowledge to reclaim land rights. And this project is based in the Sapara belief, the Sapara belief about the Witsaiki which they call good living. And this is a concept that they have been carried for many years, which is just a simple concept that it means protecting the energy of the river, the forest, and the wind by maintaining an open connection to the spirit world through dreams. So the Sapara people have been known by their cosmology about dreams, and their daily lives is based on dreams and how the dreams are interpreted on a daily basis. So they are also one of the smallest groups, indigenous groups here in Ecuador. There is around 600 Sapara left between Ecuador and Peru. And their language is also endangered. There's only 3 elders that speak the Sapara language today. So Rooted is part of a long-term project that is called In Between Dreams, the Forest Echoes, the Song of the Burning Anaconda. And this is just a project that resignifies the collective memory of the Sapara women while also honoring the spiritual connections that they share with the land, and recognizes that human identity is not outside of nature, but rather within it. And it's been, oops, sorry. And I've been working in this project since, like I said, since 2020. So a little bit about how the project started was with an ethnographic film back in 2020, which was released in 2021. And it just talks about, the film is about the relationship Sapara women have with the land and with the forest, and also how those relationships they carried are centered around dreams, and how those relationships are guided by dreams. So the project was done in collaboration with a group of people, with women that they are called blooming women, or they call themselves blooming women, or in their language, Yarishaya Itiumo. And these are women who came together in the Janchamacocha community, which is one of the Sapara communities, one of the 2 Sapara communities that I've worked with. And they started to build more and weave these relationships with other Sapara communities, in order to kind of weave this knowledge and preserve and just have a voice for or amplify their own voices in order to fight for their territories, and also to reframe what their ancestral knowledge means to them nowadays. Not that, you know, everything is changing, and they're constantly have been in this this battle with extractivism. And I think, you know, this project has been, it's been so for so long that right now they are one of the people, or the group of women have been one of the groups that stand still without oil exploitation in both of their communities, and that have been very strong about keeping oil extraction outside their territories. So part of the project also, with Photographers Without Borders through the Revolutionary Storyteller Grant, was to collaborate with women. A lot of my work centers on collaborative and experimental methodologies. So this part of the project was to have portraits of women and have them embroidered themselves, thinking about this, you know, this metaphor that unties the norms of oppression. So embroidery is used as a form to untie these norms of oppression that have been set for many years in many indigenous communities, and more also in the Sapra Nation. And it's seen most as a ritual, a mending ritual that embraces their ancestral knowledge and also reflects women's experiences from a place of autonomy and also resilience, and how they want to be represented through a photograph or through photo embroidery. So these images were made in collaboration with two of the communities, two separate communities, the Janchamacocha community and the Atataquinja community, which both are Sapra, are part of the Sapra Nation. And each photograph that you see that is embroidered was based on their names, on their Sapra names. So while doing my work and my field work, a lot of the stories that they tell or they told me were that, and I think this happens in many indigenous nations around the world too, where religion came and they changed their names and they tried to colonize their identity in a way, right, in their territory. So a lot of the embroidered photos that you saw and that you will see were based on recreating what their Sapra name means. And it's also a way of reclaiming their identity, of reclaiming that name that it was taken away from them when religion entered their community and forced them to change their name to westernized names. So for example, this photo was based also in a dream that her Western name is Alejandra, but her Sapra name was Kahi, or is Kahi, and it's a bird. So she has the wings of the bird, and then she based her photo embroidery in a dream that she had as a bird, of becoming this type of bird. And her name is also Kahi in Sapra. So it was kind of this reconstruction of identity and this reconstruction of who they are, and how their name also, right? It connects to the relationship that women have with the land and women have with the jungle. Each name also, it's either a representation or it's either a name that has been given because of a tree or a plant or a certain pahus that they call, which means energies. So if a woman is given a pahu or an energy, that is like the energy that they will heal other people. So it's something that is passed generational, and it's part of their identity. So this process of photo embroidery was just that, was to kind of like deconstruct those norms that were set before when colonization happened. And now how do you reconstruct, or how do they reconstruct their own identity from what they have now, and also from their memories and their own autonomy, right? Their own stories, their own experiences. And that's all for me today. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and for being here.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. If you guys have any questions for Tatiana, then feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and we'll return to that later on. But for now, I want to introduce Natasha Johnson, who is a multimedia artist and alumna of the Rhode Island School of Design and a winner of the 2019 Sony Alpha Female Creator in Residence Award. Her work revolves around educating and inspiring those around her. As Danielle mentioned, she's the founder of a creative arts after-school youth program called the SMART Project, and she's also the creator of the Self-Publication, a photographic book series that shares reflections and images from members of the Black community. She's joining us tonight from Dallas to talk about her work there. So thank you so much, Natasha.
Thanks so much, and I really appreciate it. It's really nice being here with you all today. And yeah, this is brilliant. It's beautiful to hear the stories and to consume so much beauty especially with what is going on in the world. But once again, it's nice to meet you all. Thank you for the introduction. I do go by NJ sometimes, but Natasha is fine. I do a lot of work in the community, especially my love for kids is why I love saying that I'm an educator. And my art is what truly just brings me peace and joy. And over the years, I've done many things, and everything that I do create has symbols and hidden meanings in it, whether I'm doing it to uplift the community or to inspire the children. It's all a way to really just grab a hold of the world and to use my voice where I can, when I can, especially while I'm here. It's important to understand that photography is a part of our soul, and it's what we see and what we capture so that the world can see it. And whether I am creating images of the people that I meet or I am inspiring the youth of the SMART Project, it's important to understand where our story really starts, and that's in our souls. And we can move around the world and we can see, but it's important to learn how to communicate, to capture that, and to spread it amongst those we truly care about. I have been inspired once again by my life's journey and just the things that I've went through personally, and that's really helped me gain more wisdom, which is ultimately what led to me working with so many great people around the world, their stories. And many of the stories that I've worked on have really led to the area of our earth, our climate, and how we are taking care of it, yet how the system of things and how it is running is actually harming our earth, harming our other friends that are not considered human, and how they are harming the marginalized communities in which so many people lived, or they were actually forced to live in so many different ways based on the history that has been presented throughout this lifetime. And it's really difficult at times, but it brings me a lot of joy because I know that I can make a difference. And with the Faces That Face, it's very important to mention that my intention was to really just pull out the faces of the community, to work with them, and especially Janie Cisneros. She is the leader of Seniorton United, and she was appalled when she learned about the pollution in the area. Janie grew up in that very same community because West Dallas, for me, housed some of my, well, all of my very first memories, right? It's the first place I remember being alive and feeling alive, and knowing that there were so many industries in that community affecting us, where I struggled with asthma as a kid and where I just didn't really know what was happening. The adults did. They were fighting against it, but I didn't know what was happening. So to be in the flesh now as an adult, being able to create a visual story that combats and fights against companies like GAF, General Aniline and Film, this company that is a roofing manufacturer that is producing these items that are polluting the environment and the air and the lake nearby. It's important for me to just shine a light on it, but to create very strong and powerful poetic images of these people, to show their importance, to show their existence, and to remind the world that we have to protect one another. When I was a kid, I didn't truly, once again, know what was happening, but it was affecting me, it was affecting my friends, and we all have our stories. And it's important to shout it out to the rooftops and let the world know what is going on. I was able to photograph Janie. She was a great resource to connecting with so many different people in the community. She lived up the hill instead of in the housing projects where I lived, and she lived in a home. Her mom lives across the street from her, and they live directly near GAF. Like literally, she can walk out of her door and touch the fence of that place. And it's quite frightening because she has a little girl now. And she became worried about 4 years ago now, and after getting some information from the air monitors and how the air was polluted because of this facility. And she set to work and created Singleton United and gathered so many people in the community to make a difference. But Janie is a powerhouse and is someone I truly adore. And that's what's so great about photojournalism and connecting with people to make a difference, is that you fight the fight together, right? And you are, in a way, honoring them while you are advocating for them, while they're using their voices, and you are using your voice through your lens. We met some really great people. Ms. Vernon, she is actually standing behind her home, and she is standing right in front of GAF, so it's fairly close. I mean, she could literally turn around and see it, and she has so many different health issues, and that is very worrisome. And she loves the community. She loves being there. She loves life, and she loves the people, but it's quite unfortunate what she has to deal with. And there has been a huge push for GAF to be removed, but it's been there for over 75 years. And without Janie even speaking up against it, who knows how long it would have continued falling upon deaf ears. And it's still a struggle to get it out of there, but with this work and with our resilience, we keep going. This is Pedro. We met, once again, so many great people, beautiful residents, and they're just magical people. They're people who matter. They do matter. So when you have these facilities and these companies who come into these communities and they take advantage, or if it's for capital gain, exploitation, capitalism all wrapped in, we have to remember that even if it's not you, it could be. And what happens to one community will eventually happen to the entire world. We can't run to one part of the world, the climate, or a part of the earth, and avoid what is happening. We are all on this planet together, and we must stand up and speak out about it. But Janie was such a pleasure to work with, and I wanted to photograph her in such a powerful way, in an intimate way, in her home, and to show the very beautiful and vulnerable side of her, but also the very powerful side of her, who is fighting this big facility, this company, head on. West Dallas for me is home, and home shouldn't hurt. Home shouldn't destroy people, especially if people just want to live and feel free there. Above just photographing the residents, it's important to photograph the environment, to show the life there, and just how quiet it can appear at times in a very busy neighborhood. I was able to document just information that Janie had. She has been working on this for a very long time, and I really wanted to honor her. But at the same time, I was learning more about what was going on in the communities and how the city was giving a lot of pushback as well. So I'm still working with Janie, and we are going to continue the fight. It's important to remember that unity is important, so documenting that as well, because you need a great, strong group of people to unite in order to take this on. Now, we couldn't fly a drone over GAF, but working with some of my friends who are in the creative world as well, we were able to illustrate a map of how close GAF is to the daycares, to the homes, the public schools, the church, the public library. Fish Trap Lake is where I used to go as a kid with my grandma to fish, and it's fairly close, and it's kind of like a stain in the community, because life is still happening, but the life is happening, but it's being corrupted by that facility being there. It was also very important for me to capture video, so that way I could create this visual story, and I could capture Janie's interview and use it to inform the community as well, even when she's not around, right? This is Janie's mom, just a beautiful woman. She also has health issues, and we are under the assumption, and we more than likely know for a fact it is because of GAF being there, and she's so close. Once again, if she walks out of her door within 2 minutes, she could touch the gate of that facility. And this is the Goliath that stands. It's also important to show like the different generations, right? We have the older, wise, beautiful people. We also have like millennials there. We also have tiny little kids who don't know what's happening in that community and how GAF is poisoning them. And this reminds me of when I was a kid. I just didn't know what was happening, but it was important for me to show the unity and the bond between a mother and her son. Also, the beauty of the community as well, when the sun sets, and how beautiful it is, and how the people there are once again very, very important, and we must fight for them. And it's my way of, when I photograph, it's a way that I want to showcase the people that I work with as these beautiful entities that need safety and protection. I love how Janie speaks through the things that she wears and how she carries herself. She's very strong and beautiful. And if you were to meet her in person, you would feel that energy, but she's not giving up the fight. And it's inspiring to work with someone like her. So, you know, I was able to interview her, and I will continue this work because the Faces That Face isn't just in West Dallas, it's around the world. And I believe that if we don't stand up for something, then the entire world will fall, because once again, what happens in one community will eventually affect us all. And there's information on Singleton United here. I will relaunch the website. I have to update a few images on here I created for the project to get more people in the community involved. And even in my work outside of the Faces That Face, when I am creating something, a new idea, I put small symbols in my work to remind those who are watching that I'm still fighting, even though it's not directly dealing with the project. So that is all I have. I don't want to run over, but I'm so happy to be able to share that with you all today. So.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to hear you talk about this project and the multifaceted, multi-layered way with which you develop this work. And you can tell how this comes directly from your heart. It also made me think about communities here in LA that have been struggling with similar issues around the health of local communities and the presence of oil companies and oil drillings within neighborhoods. And I'm wondering if there's perhaps a way to form connections between those two different forms of struggles. You know, you've mentioned how when something happens to one community, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, it came to mind, perhaps there's a way to share some knowledge and resources behind both of those struggles.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that would be great. I mean, we have tons of information, you know, and, you know, when you think about it, it's not even like GAF just here, it's in other locations around the states, you know, and what people deal with. And it's not a coincidence that, you know, each facility is near a community, literally about 500 feet. And right, you know, and you have to also think about in different areas. For example, there is fracking happening in Arlington, Texas. So it's a different community, and it's a different issue, but it's still harming the community. And you're right, we can all connect and see how this is destroying our world.
On that happy note, I would also like to invite Tatiana and Danielle to join us. And Natasha, one more thing that I was thinking about as you were sharing this work, is that the um the biggest sensorial thing here, what of course makes this topic so prevalent in the day-to-day life is odor, which is the one thing that we can't get from the photographs. And I'm wondering, how do you think about representing this struggle? It seemed to me like your turn to different disciplines and multimedia visual work really speaks to the urgency of this project and the urgency of the struggle. I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about that too, about, the photographic challenges with, reflecting all of this harm and how it impacts the day to day.
Yeah, it's when you're a person that feels, it can be a mental challenge, to deal with that type of stuff. And also when you speak about the community, the actual smells, it smells horrible, it smells bad, and we know the smell. We know the smell from that facility, but just the challenge is when you're working, you're kind of feeling overwhelmed, but not in a way that it prevents you from creating, but you're emotional. Janie was emotional, I'm emotional. The people who are going through this are emotional because the more they know, the more that they become angry because they were unaware of what was happening to them. So it's that challenge, but then also connecting and finding like the joy in it all in order to create something to send a message out to the rest of the community and the world. So even though the challenges could be like heavy on your mental state, when you understand it's for the greater good and to help each other so that way we can push back and save this world, it's really worth it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Tatiana, I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about your work. If you can take us behind the scenes, how did you even embark on such a project? Was it difficult to connect with the community and gain their trust enough so that you'll be able to pursue this work with them? Can you share a little bit about behind the scene? Take us with you there.
Yeah, I think it wasn't, when I think about it, when people ask me if it was difficult, it just seems that it wasn't that difficult. So it was actually very at the beginning, like getting in touch with the community and getting in touch with the person that will do the contact was a bit hard, because as an Ecuadorian, I lived in the United States for like 15 years, and then I decided to come back to Ecuador to do this project. And like when I look back, it was just this decision of like going to a community that it was new to me, that like coming from a different country, even though I'm an Ecuadorian, I'm still like a mestiza woman, and how do I relate with like indigenous communities here in Ecuador too. There was always that I guess that fear of not being accepted, or like not being able to do or being the right person to tell this story or to share this story. So I think when I went to the community, when I got in contact with the people who were in charge of doing like the connections, it was pretty easy. I went, I explained the project, I met the women, and they were very open when they met me. So they were also at the beginning stages of forming their women's collective that it's called the Blooming Women. So that's how everything started, and the collaboration started. So I think since then they became also like Natasha shared, that you become part of their lives in a way, right? And like the way that you tell their stories, you make sure that those stories are well represented, because, there is, what they share with me when I went into the community was always that people went, and there is this other side of like the extraction of the image as well, right? And how, people used to go also take their photographs, make their photographs, and then they will leave and never come back, and then they will never know what happened. So there were like a lot of this questioning of like, what was my intention behind the project? Why did I even want to do this project with them? So all this questioning also, I think it helped me to reconnect with my own purpose and the reason why I wanted to do the project in the first place. And it was more this, this connection to nature and the connection to the land, and like just being able to learn from them. It's been such a gift as well. And like two of my best friends now are Sapara, are from the community that I made after the project. And and we work together also in projects. So it's been, it's been a journey of just having these relationships and building this, like what they call sacred reciprocity, and this concept of just, like give and receive, but from like this space of, just being reciprocal to why with your surroundings, with the people that you work with. And I think, like all the women from the project, they've been working on this, like they've been having this these ideas of uniting and weaving this project with other communities. So I think, it's been such a process that I've seen them from the beginning, and now seeing them to continue to, because it's hard sometimes, right? When women are from different communities and they haven't met each other, and how do they build this relationship? So I feel like when we have this type of projects, they get to also know each other.
Absolutely. And there was also a question in the Q&A from Bonnie about the embroidery. Did you collaborate with them when they were stitching on the photographs, or how did that part of the process took place?
Yeah, so part of the project was that they will embroider their own photographs. So a lot of the work that I do is with collaboration, and I think embroidery has opened this side of how to collaborate with other artists or with other people that are part of the project too. I did embroider some photographs before this, which were part of my the beginning of the project. And that's how the idea was, because what I was embroidering was what the Sapra women were telling me about their culture, about their cosmovision. And in a way, when you're telling a story from someone else, you also have your own experiences, right? And your own perceptions, and that's why you present as well. So I was very curious on how embroidery could also open this avenue and this path for the women to embroider their photograph themselves, and like how this will look like, and what would they bring to them as well.
Thank you so much. Danielle, I saw there was a question in the Q&A from Apollo Victoria about the time that artists spend with the communities when they work on their projects. And it made me think about what happens, during the run of these projects, thinking about your experience with all of these photographers from a bird's eye view. If you can share a little bit about, the amount of time that people spend with the communities and different projects that they work on, and Also, another thing that I was curious about is what happens afterwards. What happens in, we're hearing such amazing stories from Natasha and Tatiana about their relationship with those communities. Can you share a little bit more from your experience about what happens after as well?
Yeah, I can definitely try to answer all of those questions. So first and foremost, I think with regards to relationship, especially with this particular grant, like we really look for storytellers who either have a deep connection to the subject matter or a longstanding relationship with the communities that they're working with, or are from the communities that they're working with. So that's like a really important piece for us. Reason being is because, there's so many ways to tell a story. And I think from, my bird's eye view of like seeing so many different applicants and so many amazing storytellers from all around the world, and not just for our grant, but like reviewing other grants, reviewing portfolios, like all kinds of stuff. The closer folks are, the deeper in relationship, like the more powerful the story is always. And then you have room for like collaborations, like with what Natasha and Tatiana do with their work. Like you saw some of the really stunning like mixed media graphic art that Natasha's creating, and Tatiana's like done so many creative things with her work. And that can really only happen when you're having like when you're deep in relationship and you like really care, and yeah, there's longevity to the project. So that question of like what's next, I mean, Natasha and Tatiana can answer for themselves, but with regards to the other storytellers that aren't here, the goal for us is to have a community exhibition, make sure that everyone gets to see that their work, like the photographs that were made of them, because that's another thing that tends to happen in a really extractive kind of way in storytelling, is like the taking. Where everyone knows at PWB that we're really mindful with our language. We really believe words have power. So, instead of taking, like we're making photos, which has a lot more intention to it. And so, yeah, like I hope that answers that part of the question.
See.
I hope it
Absolutely.
answers both.
Yes, and the first part of the question was just about the duration of time that photographers usually spend within the communities, especially in projects where they're not necessarily part of that community. Maybe they're coming a little bit from the outside. Like, how long do they usually spend with a community that they're documenting and
Yeah,
working?
like for this particular grant, I can say like it's pretty much a 6-month period of documenting. But like I said, most folks when they apply, they have to have already demonstrated like a relationship with the community, even if they're not from the community. We ask for like references from elders or like relevant community leaders to support the project, which is also really important for us. But yeah, I think there's so much that happens afterwards, right? It's there's publications. We've had a good relationship with the Guardian. So Tatiana, Angela, a few others have been published there, and then like just getting more attention. But every single project also has an impact goal that's outlined at the beginning. So like one specific impact piece that they would like to see. So like for Tatiana's project, it may have evolved now, but it was initially like to fundraise for for the women's medicine house. For Natasha, it's like getting that legislation or getting those changes made, and those policy changes or those wins of, getting them to shut down in 7 years, like those types of things. And for others, it's different. It just kind of depends on what each of them wants to do from the outset, and then following through and measuring.
So wonderful to hear that context about all the participating photographers and the project. Maybe just as a concluding thought, a question for all of you. You've shared so much with us tonight about your own projects, and Danielle about the program more broadly and all the participating artists. You guys make us think about how people matter, nature matters, our connection with not humans and with one another matters and will determine the fate of our world. And it was wonderful to hear you talk about how we're all connected. And I'm wondering if there is one thing that you want everybody listening to us tonight to take with them. What would that be? Just one concluding thought that you would like, the audience here tonight to take with them.
Do one of you want to start? Natasha?
Uh, Um, one thing that I would want the audience to take away, and I've said this so many times, but be good to people, because when you're good to people, it's a reflection of yourself, because you should be good to yourself. And being good will allow you to see the world for what it is, and that will help you determine what side of history you want to be on. And you want to be on the right side, because the right things are what will really save this world and help us save each other. So just be good to others and be good to yourself.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Tatiana, what about you?
Um, I think what also comes up to my mind and what has helped me build my relationships and the relationship I have with the environment is this concept of sacred reciprocity and how we are, how we are with nature and what is it that we are given and we're receiving and how thankful we are for that, just that exchange without, having this idea of extraction and constantly consumerism. But like how can we build a balanced relationship where we all have life and we all share this life and we all share what is given to us from that space of reciprocity.
Mm, thank you so much for sharing that. That was beautiful too. Oh my God, I'm repeating myself because that's just a sign that I'm really inspired by everything that you guys are talking about. Danielle, what about you? A concluding thought for us to take with us tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I just think I'm always reminded of this like statement, that gets repeated often about humans being bad, about humans being parasites, and like we're just like extracting so much, and that is partially true. Another truth about humanity is that we have the ability to be caretakers and stewards, and I think the word sacred is really important, like coming back to what's sacred. Like that's what rematriation is really all about. It's coming back to the land, coming back to our teachings. And at PWB, like we're really trying to craft, a visualary, of what collective liberation can look like, because then it's like, okay, well, if that's what we're aiming towards, like what do we need to do in the present to get us there? What kind of stories do we shine the light on to get there? Natasha said something really powerful, like about using the lens as like part of the, being part of the story in that way. And I think that's like absolutely true of any storyteller. Like we are part of the story, like whether we want to admit it or not, or, I really don't believe in objectivity. And so I just think when we hold that future, the right stories come to us, and then we can really step forward into them like with power and confidence, and know that we're aligning our purpose with like what what we want to achieve. And so yeah, just like wanted to leave folks with that.
Wonderful. I mean, I don't know. I'm inspired. I hope that everybody that is listening to us right now feels the same way. At LACP, we also know that visual storytellers change the world, and we try to support them in any way possible to help them take on that work. So thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Thank you to our wonderful presenters. The exhibition is live on our website, and we're grateful for each and every one of you for being with us tonight. Thank you, and stay well, and see you all soon. Bye.